Hey everyone, it's Lexi. In today's video I'm going to be sharing with you the top 5 books that I read this winter. So this video is going to cover all the books that I read through the months of December, January, and February. I'll give you all the ratings that I had for them, and then I'll give you kind of a more in-depth of my top 5. So without further ado, let's get started. So in the month of December I read Cress by Marissa Meyer, and I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I then read Winter by Marissa Meyer, and I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. And then to finish out the month, I ended up reading Ferris by Marissa Meyer, and I gave this 4 out of 5 stars as well. So going into January, I read The Assassin's Blade by Sarah J. Maas, and I gave this a 3.5 out of 5 stars. Career of Evil by Galbraith, and I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. And then Playing with Fire by Tess Gerritsen, and I gave this a 3.5 out of 5 stars. And then February, I ended up reading Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, the illustrated edition, and I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was Codename Verity by Wein, and I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. I then read Stars Above by Marissa Meyer, and I gave this a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I then read The Martian by Andy Weir, and I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars. And then to finish out the month, I ended up reading Rose Under Fire by Wein, and I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. So out of all those books that I mentioned, like here are the top 5. In the top 5 spot, it would have to be Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, the illustrated edition. I feel like the illustrations in here are beautiful, and they complement the series beautifully. I haven't reread the Harry Potter in like 8 years, so it was kind of like a good refresher. There were so many things that I forgot, and it just kind of reimmersed me into this magical world, which I really liked, and I'm super excited for like the new books that they will be releasing every year, and I feel like it's just a good treat for kind of reintroducing yourself to the Harry Potter series. So the 4th book in my top 5 is Rose Under Fire by Wein, and this is kind of like the spin-off to Codename Verity, and this is a historical fiction novel about a girl named Rose who is an ATA pilot fighting in World War II, and one day she ends up getting captured by German pilots when she's flying back to England, and she gets sent to a concentration camp known as Ravensbrück. And this book revolves around kind of her friendship and her fight for survival, and it was just a really good book. I was worried going into this that it would not live up to the expectations that I have from Codename Verity, and it rose to the occasion. It's not as good as Codename Verity in my opinion, but I feel like it's a very strong book, and I liked how we do get to see 2 characters that made an appearance in Codename Verity in here as well. It's just a great novel. If you like historical fiction novels, this will be probably one that I highly recommend that you check out. It is at some points very hard to get through because some of the stuff talked about in this book actually took place. Like in particular, she becomes friends with what are known as the rabbits, which were women who had medical tests performed on them, and some of the stuff that does take place in this novel did actually happen, so that's what makes it very hard to get through. But overall, it's a very eye-opening novel, and I think that it's something that everyone needs to read. The book in the number 3 spot is Career of Evil by Galbraith, and this is the 3rd book in the Cormoran Strike series, and this is the kind of like the pseudonym for J.K. Rowling, so this is kind of like her detective series, and I just love this book. I feel like this is the best one in this series so far. We finally got kind of more background, and we kind of got to know more about the character Robin, which I really enjoy, and kind of all the stuff that took place, because Robin and Strike have a very strong friendship, and they kind of question like how deep that friendship is in this novel, and I really enjoyed that, and the ending of it was just like, oh, it was, I can't wait till the next one comes out. It's like, oh, J.K. Rowling knows how to like leave the readers hanging, and I just can't wait. And it's kind of, this novel kind of centers around Strike and kind of like his past as well. It kind of revolves around the story of Robin, who gets sent a severed leg, and Strike thinks this is something to do with his past, so we kind of see more of Strike's childhood as well, and Robin has a more prominent role within this book as well, which is probably one of the reasons why I enjoyed it so much, because she is such a strong female character. My second favorite book from this winter was Cress by Marissa Meyer, and this is the 3rd book within the Lunar Chronicles, and this was my favorite of the entire series. It was just so good. I was a little worried going into this just because I did not really like Scarlet that much, but this book, it was just, I love Cress and I love her relationship with Thorne, and I think part of the reason why like this kind of is my favorite of the series because Scarlet isn't really in this one as much, so I think I enjoy this as much. And Wolf doesn't really have a prevalent role anyway, so he wasn't really in it as well, but I really enjoyed it. I feel like there was a lot of character development with Cinder and Kai, and I love like Aiko and all that, so this one was just really good. I loved, this is probably my favorite of the series, and it'll probably definitely be the one that I'll be rereading for years to come. So my favorite book of winter had to be Codename Verity by Elizabeth Wein, and this is a story about two friends who are, one of them, Maddie, is an ATA pilot, and Julie, who is a spy, and Julie ends up being captured by the Germans, and she is having to write out her confession, and this kind of revolves around that, like her friendship with Maddie and just all of that. And it's, I don't want to give, I have a review and discussion of this. If you're interested, I'll link it down below. And so yeah, like it was just a heartbreaking novel. It was probably, has been, quickly become one of my top favorite historical fiction novels of all time. It was just very well done, and I love just how it focused on friendship and kind of the lengths, and how, like, I think the quote here, it says in the back, it's like being in love, discovering your best friend, and I think that's really good because a lot of the historical fiction novels don't really focus on the women, it's always on the men, and I feel like this is very complements kind of this side of the war, and just kind of the war that women fought, and just kind of like the friendship, like just how everything that took place, like I get a little teary-eyed thinking about all the things that happened, but this will just be a book that lives with me forever. And if you have not checked this book out, I highly recommend that you do. You will not be disappointed. That's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what some of your favorite books were this winter. If you've read any of these, what were your thoughts and opinions? And yeah, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.